Hey everyone, Nissa Waters here, CEO of Possible AI, and I'm super excited to be here today with Trevor from Avatars Global. Trevor, I'll get you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Trevor from Avatars Global. Excited to be on the podcast. Been looking forward to doing this one for a while, Nissa.
This is a big announcement for us today.
Yeah, let's go out with a bang, huh? Let's talk it through.
So, look, guys, we've got something really exciting to share. Possible AI and Avatars Global are officially partnering to bring intelligent, interactive avatars to life. That's the big part.
Mhm.
Um, for brands around the world to connect with their customers, partners, employees.
Yep. So we're looking at, I kind of describe the partnership as Possible AI takes care of like the back end and Avatars Global kind of takes care of the front end, right? So maybe we can start by talking a little bit more about uh, your team and the expertise you guys are bringing to the market, the way you're kind of pioneering that transformation piece with brands and businesses looking to embrace AI and looking at interesting ways to deploy AI across their businesses, and then kind of how we plug into that sort of front end of it to make it all feel a little bit more natural and human and a little bit more easy to kind of wrap your head around, because it's a pretty like you must get it all the time. I know I do, but it's a pretty wild kind of conversation when people start having this like, what is AI and how do I use it? And are we just adding ChatGPT? I mean, how does that look for you? What are the sorts of things that people are kind of come to you with?
Yeah, look, so I think from our perspective, we're working with brands that are really, really interested in doing things differently. So it's fine to kind of go that incremental step up in terms of, we might automate some of our business processes. We might look at rationalizing the way that we do things. But generally speaking, what we're doing a lot with our customers is, and particularly traditional businesses, looking to leverage their expertise within their business, their traditional core business, and absolutely transform it into how businesses, we believe businesses will be operating in the future. So, how they can embrace AI, how they can embrace different markets, how they can scale to being more of a global organization rather than being resource constrained, particularly here down the bottom of the earth in New Zealand and Australia. So for us, it's about helping our customers on that journey and helping them understand what the art of possible is. Very ironic given our name. And that's where I guess we started working together around, I'd say 6 to 12 months ago, probably around 9 months ago.
Yep, yep. So it's an interesting one because we had this thesis that AI needed a UI, right? Like the way that AI works in the world, and at least, kind of where it is now and what we see coming down the pipe, it's very much a different way of interacting with technology, right? The human to digital or the human to technology interface is kind of changing, and AI is driving that. And so we're finding that there's different ways now to interact with technology. There's different uses for technology, and we had a thesis that would need to have some kind of front end for people to feel more confident and comfortable, and also depending on the use case, so we can create some of those custom interfaces, if you like, and that's where we went all in. We saw how the traditional kind of models of VFX and animation and all of that sort of stuff was lending itself naturally to this sort of different shape of technology, and so away we went. And it seems like so far it's been an amazing response, right? We've been overwhelmed by the reaction that we've had already, and we've only been at this for, I mean, Avatars Global really started about a year or so ago, and we met you guys and started working with you guys on an initial project, and look, there's been a number come through the pipe since then, so it's a pretty exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've been able to unlock a number of possibilities over the last few months that weren't really practical prior as well. So seeing um, the technology mature at such a rapid pace, and we know that's happening in AI, but it's not just AI, it's the integration, it's the automation, it's the way you actually pull the puzzle together, that is actually starting to make this a lot more achievable, for a number of businesses that are hoping to embrace AI, embrace avatars, embrace more of that engaging connection with whomever they're choosing to engage with. So that's kind of the exciting part. And I, as you know, I travel a fair bit to some of these global conferences, and being over at CES at the beginning of the year was really interesting. And I was looking around at different avatar companies, as you do, and I have to say, I went to one of the biggest global organizations and went to their showcase, and they had an avatar solution. And I must say, it was nowhere near as incredible as the art that you guys pull together. And it really is. It's this depth of understanding the human connection that I think differentiates you guys.
Yeah, we wanted to we're pretty purposeful about wanting to be a leader in the space. We wanted to do it from the perspective that people need that empathy, that connection. There's a lot of talk about the uncanny valley, and you see a lot of these sort of AI avatar kind of driven things that come to market, and you kind of get this sense that it's a robot, right? Like you get this sense that it feels like an avatar, it feels like an AI thing, it feels very artificial. And so what the outcome of what that looks like from a user point of view is becomes very transactional and very function driven. And I'm very passionate about this sort of resetting of the relationship between humans and technology. I think that's a really important part of the next 10 years. And to me, it had to be something that I wanted to connect with, and I felt comfortable, and I wanted to share with. And so when I met Paul and the team, and we started putting this business together, that was our kind of North Star. It has to feel like it's human. It has to feel like there's some kind of connection. There has to be some kind of empathy in order for me to want to connect with this thing and go deeper. Because, I mean, we know, and people are very quickly discovering that AI can go a long way, right? Like it's not just an advanced search engine. It can become anything and everything, depending on what your use case is. It might be something that spits out your sales and marketing material. It could be something that facilitates a process or automates a process in your business, or it could be a digital best friend for your kids. It could be something that supports and nurtures your physical or mental health. There's a lot of use cases, and there's a lot of applications. And as these sort of what I call layer 2 AI companies, like all of these companies that are taking the foundational models and building different use cases and specializing in certain niches are starting to build out, we start to see this come through where there's this differentiator between, hey, I want to know this, and wow, isn't that amazing? This chatbot just gave me a really, really good answer, to how do I incorporate this into something that's built around human beings, and how do I disrupt or augment or amplify the things that are going on in the business that humans are typically doing with this new technology. And from our point of view, it had to feel like it was something that you wanted to trust, that you wanted to connect with, that you felt in the same way that two people like us talking in this conversation feel a connection and a bond. There's this inherent kind of relationship that we build on in anything that we do. And that
is this where we stop to say we're both avatars? Ha ha.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Look how real it is.
No. It's pretty fascinating. But what I want to do before we jump in too much further is actually explain to the audience what interactive avatars are, because we've all seen an avatar that will effectively it gets put up and it will talk through a script that has been preloaded and predefined. I think where we're talking about some game-changing technology is actually the interaction part. And that's the coming together of our two organizations, both from an infrastructure, AI tuning and language model fine-tuning, towards the actual technology behind the scenes that you guys are building, and then to the face of the brand being the avatar. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about what is an interactive avatar?
Sure. So, interaction, it's a difficult thing to define, right? Like, what is an interaction? But for us, it was about the ability to have a two-way kind of conversation. So it wasn't just ask a question, get an answer. It was have a conversation and explore topics and ideas. So the idea of interaction for us really comes down to what I describe as the personality layer. So I think where we kind of differentiate ourselves from a lot of the other things that we're seeing going on in the marketplace, there's two real key ones. One is the quality of the avatars and things that we're delivering, so that they are impressive and exciting to look at, and you want to engage.
I won't lie, Trev. Like, when you guys showed me, and we're at a sophisticated stage of one of our projects, and you showed me one of the avatars that we're building at the moment. I don't often have OMG moments anymore. Well, I'm sounding very old saying even OMG, but I don't often do that now, because you kind of expect where the technology is going. But just this level of complexity, the level of pores and skin and eye movement and jaw movement blew me away, absolutely blew me away. And I know that you've got an amazing team behind you that work tirelessly on these projects. But when we're talking about some pretty big projects or things that are really, really meaningful, that photorealism is incredibly important when you're interacting with an avatar, particularly in training and education use cases. So, which are the use cases that we're dealing with on this particular one? But obviously, the avatar can be anything from being cartoon-like to have brand consistency, and scalability across multiple platforms to be able to engage with. That's kind of my understanding, right?
Yeah, that's a key part of it all for us. So, we have a team that can create anything really. As I said, our team kind of harkens back to traditional animation, VFX. My team are all Disney, Marvel, Warner Brothers, Cartoon Network, decades of going from hand sketching right through to where we are now with tools like Blender and Character Creator and all of these sorts of high-end, animation and character creating tools. The guys want to make sure that our product is at a level that differentiates itself in the market. We see that AI is coming through. There's these Hey Gen type products where you can kind of clone yourself or clone an image, but they're limited in their applications. They're limited in their range and use cases. They're not interoperable with other platforms. It makes it very difficult to use your asset across a different range of media, from marketing.
Yeah, and look, I think being aware of our audience is really important. So the fact that we both specialize largely in the business and enterprise landscape, obviously, these tools are made for, generally speaking, consumer use cases. The integration options are limited somewhat. So what we are doing is really looking at that more fine-tuned, specific engagement where it can be safe, secure, and be able to manage a really large brand conversation and know that it's within guardrails of safety and security, right? So that's where we start talking about, I guess, being able to move away from traditional film or photography or whatever it may be into this brand avatar that's consistent, and able to be interacted with, much like a normal human would be able to be interacted with.
100%. And in order for that to be effective and for people to engage, it's got to look great, first of all, because people won't want to engage with something that looks a bit shit and half-assed. But the second part of it is this idea of the personality layer. And I think that's a really big part of what we bring to these types of projects is we've got people in our team who are specifically focused on building the personality of the AI and the large language model to suit the use case that we're building for. So, if we're building a kids experience and the target market is children, that's a very different personality. That's a very different kind of a use case than if we were building a customer service bot or a training tool or some other type of use case where you would want to have a very different understanding. But you're right, the part where it gets challenging is, and I think where I'm seeing a lot of people struggling in the market at the moment, is the guardrails bit. Like, how do we get this thing to just be predictable? How do we get it to be reliable? And how do we get it to be correct and not just make shit up? Everybody knows that AI is brilliant at just making something up and convincingly telling you a fat lie. So that's a big part of the challenge, and I mean, your team are brilliant at doing that and building that architecture and that the RAG systems and all of the bits and pieces that go on in the back end. And I won't get too technical because otherwise we'll drop our viewership. Will just fall through the floor and nobody will.
Yeah, we probably aren't that technical anyway, right? So ultimately, we're there to focus on the business outcomes, and the incredible technical team are the ones building this. But I'm thinking probably the best way to talk about this is to show one. So I'm wondering if we could potentially meet a special guest.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I did, when you said let's do a podcast, I was actually just going to send somebody else in to be me, but I think we're probably not quite there yet. Maybe in the very near future.
I don't think we should clone you, Trevor. I'm scared of that world.
Well, hopefully if we get it right, you won't even know. But what I did decide to do is I rang up my friend Simon, who is one of the heroes of a key piece of kids-focused IP. And Simon was available because he was just hanging out at the beach doing nothing. And so I said, come along and meet some of the people, and you are. So yeah, let's see if Simon's around. Simon, are you here? Simon. Oh, here he is. Hey, Simon, how you doing, mate? Do you want to say hello to everybody?
Hey, mate, what's up? Yeah, totally. What's everyone up to? Always stoked to meet new people.
Hey, Simon, don't panic, but you're live on a podcast right now. Oh, he freaked out.
Oh my gosh, he did freak out. Wow, guys, we did so many recordings of this beforehand, and we did not get an error. He's probably tired from waiting in the back of the.
Hey, Simon, don't panic, mate. It's okay. You can talk to these people. They're friendlies. Tell them who you are and what you've been up to today.
Haha, no worries, mate. I'm Simon, 17, and I'm chasing the pro surfer dream here in Santa Barbara. Just finished a dawn patrol session. Waves were pretty gnarly, actually. How about you guys? What's cracking?
Oh, we've been talking a little bit about how conversational AI can work with avatars to create interactive experiences like the one we're having right now. What do you think about that?
Whoa, that's pretty mind-blowing. Interactive avatars and AI? Sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. It's kinda cool to think about how tech can bring people together, even if it's virtually. But, I also like keeping things real, you know? Nothing beats the actual feeling of salt water on your skin and the rush of a real wave.
It's so ironic. It's so funny and so ironic. Simon, we have loved meeting you. You're such a cool dude. But it's time for us to talk a little bit more about the depths of our partnership.
Hey, Simon, why don't you go back to the beach, bro? We'll talk to you later.
Later, dudes and dudettes. Catch some waves for me. Yeah, the ocean's calling, and I gotta go. Keep the stoke alive.
Oh,
so,
gosh.
Yeah, you can see where we're headed with this, right? Like it's still not perfect, and that's very much a beta application of what we're doing. It's not ready for production. It's not live in the market yet. We're still tinkering with the personality layer, but you can see how different that becomes when you're having a conversation with an interactive avatar, and you can see the injection of some sort of identity. You can see the injection of the character's backstory and the character's knowledge base in creating a lot of the interesting storylines. So we're working very hard on that at the moment.
And look, there were a few errors in there, but that comes down to some of the things that we're working on at the moment, right? So just to sort of touch on that, it comes down to where we're hosting, where the data is being pulled from, the platforms that we are working on. 3 months ago, the ability to do this wasn't there, or it was incredibly complicated and expensive to do. So being able to go from where we were to where we are now has been a phenomenal journey.
Correct. And, we're still building all of the, cloud-based infrastructure to run that particular experience. It's just a bit of fun to bring Simon in here, but he's running on some third-party tools and they're not perfect yet. And as you say, there's still development to go, but it gives people a sense of where we're headed and how it might work for your business or your experience or your brand or your IP or whatever it is that you're thinking along the lines of. We can kind of look at, one of the things that our team will really focus on is, who are we talking to, right? What's the audience and what do we need to create? Because it might not be a person, and I think that's where a lot of people are focused on, we need hyper-realistic humans. Yes, we can do hyper-realistic humans, but that might not be the best representation of your brand, or it might not be the best way to engage your audience. I tell this running joke, why isn't Thor my personal trainer? Like, why do I have to have a muscular looking dude as my personal trainer? Why can't I have Thor or the Hulk or something like that? So we can, depending on the audience.
What you connect and identify with will differ from person to person. So that's that personalization element starting to come through.
Yeah, and brands as well. You look at something like Duolingo, who have got one of the most famous avatars or brand mascots in the space. And it was there, and then it wasn't, and now it's back again. And so, but theirs is like a chirping little bird, or McDonald's is another classic with Ronald McDonald as a brand mascot, because back in those days it had to be something that a human could do because the technology wasn't there to make it digital. But now that the floodgates are open, and our team is really, really good at understanding who are we talking to, what is your brand identity, and what do we need to do to create something that your audience is going to be able to connect with, they're going to remember, they're going to want to engage with, and then the ability to create them in that kind of conversational or that interactive way. It just wows people. Like the first time you see people talking to an avatar and it talks back and it makes a joke or it says something interesting, the expression on their faces is just magical, and it's very different to, hey, Alexa, play my Spotify, right? Like that's a very different conversation.
Yeah. So we'll start wrapping up now. What I wanted to do is just sort of get your final thoughts around what and why a brand would look to engage us for this type of an experience. And we're not talking about just the interactive experience. Interactive experience is that next level, likely more in the customer service or training angles. There's obviously the entire marketing scope, which is more specific to avatars that aren't interactive, that are telling a story. But talk to me about sort of why.
Yeah, look, I think the early use cases and what we're seeing, what we're building for our customers at the moment are those early use cases where anything that kind of requires a face-to-face interaction that would be better to scale can be supplemented with an avatar. So what does that mean? Okay, a training module where you're training somebody on selling skills, for example, right? That's typically done by a role play with a human, very artificial, pretending to be a doctor or pretending to be,
role plays
nobody hates them. Nobody actually gives them their all. Nobody actually does it the way they would do it because it feels uncomfortable. It feels unnatural. But when there's an avatar, it's like a computer game. So it takes away the element of people watching you. It takes away the element of all of the things that make us kind of cower away from it and just want to get it over and done with as quickly as possible. And it becomes a much more interactive and beneficial learning experience. So there's an example of a use case where a face-to-face is necessary and an avatar is probably a better option. But the other thing that I'm really excited about and something that we're really focused on is this interoperability across media. What does that mean? So at the moment, 95% of the world is focused on a mobile phone screen, and social media is typically at the forefront of that mobile phone screen. But what's coming in the next wave of technology, or the next device we're all going to buy, are going to be augmented reality glasses, which I think on the thing.
So right there, I've got the Meta, I've got the two Metas, the Google Glass from the old days.
Yep. So the Google Glass or augmented reality glasses, they're going to be coming thick and fast over the next 12 months. And that'll be the next kind of mass adopted device. And so people are going to be looking for ways to experience the world in augmented reality. So if you're a brand and you're creating a customer facing asset, like an avatar that might be a brand mascot or a sales tool or something like that, now it can live on a mobile phone on social media. It can live on a mobile phone on your website, and it can also live in augmented reality in my bedroom. And then we go right into the full virtual reality component where we can create anything you want. And you've probably seen some of the video game stuff like, personal training apps or punching things out of the sky or, single person shooters and stuff. But what does that mean when you want to control an environment and put people in a particular environment that they are open to learning or development or, virtual counseling, virtual, whatever it might look like. And then zooming out from that, you've got all of it, right? So now you've got my website, my social media, my augmented reality, my virtual reality, my e-commerce store that's now a virtual store, all of those different experiences can be kind of tied together for a brand using one of these interoperable sort of assets.
It is interesting as well, because you kind of mentioned counselling there, and my brain goes in a million different places all the time, as everyone that knows me knows. But you sit there and you go, a lot of things aren't accessible to the masses, right? Because of financial reasons or access to technology or locations. So being able to give services out a lot more broadly is really interesting as well, right? So being able to connect in a personalised way,
Absolutely.
in a fine-tuned or a guardrailed mechanism,
I mean,
is
Simon
really
that we just
exciting.
met. Yeah, Simon that we just met is a perfect example of what you're talking about, right? So we've trained that LLM on child psychology framework. So if the child who's interacting with the avatar starts talking about being bullied at school or something wild that's sort of outside the line of the game experience that we're building, the avatar has got a framework to draw upon. It'll acknowledge, it will provide context, it will provide recommendations and feedback, just like the framework should if they were talking to a real person. So we can get hyper specific, and you're right, that enables us to have a controlled, meaningful, highly trained conversation with somebody that might be able to help them out of a particular challenging stage of their life or a situation that they're in, at scale and cheaply, right? So I don't have $150 an hour to go to my local counsellor, because the reason I'm suffering at the moment is because I can't afford, to pay my bills and feed my family and have a roof over my head. If I can access actual, CBT and counselling support through one of these pieces of technology, whereas before I wouldn't do anything at all, I think that's a step in the right direction, right? Again, resetting this relationship.
I think that's the really exciting part about this, because there's a lot of consumer tools out there. It's really fun. You're playing with AI all the time. You might be putting pictures up, but this is where it becomes meaningful. And this is what gives me goosebumps and why I get up in the morning, right? Is thinking about how we can use AI and use technology for good, as opposed to some of the other mechanisms that it's being used for today. So how we can look at helping brands engage better, how we can look at training, and I've got to be cautious around some of the things I say, but because of some of the projects that we're working on, but there's some really, really incredible use cases. I think that's what we do, is really help customers understand what they can do with this technology and how they can take it to more people in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, I mean, just as I was saying before, like we look at who are we talking to, what's the use case, but your job is to look at, well, what's the business and what is its function and why does it exist, and what are the relevant pieces of AI technology that will help supercharge, augment, create better processes, engage customers or engage users in a more meaningful way. Where does it require more than just an automated process that nobody ever sees? I mean, we haven't even touched on agentic frameworks yet, and
That'll be
everything. And maybe we do, because we're looking at agentic frameworks for user experience around these avatars. So every child that interacts with Team XYZ will have a one-to-one relationship with that instance or that agent, and it'll remember them, it'll learn from them, and it'll become hyper-personalized, rather than I'm just connecting with a video game that's the same for everybody. This experience is unique to me and my relationship with this AI, and I think that that's something that a lot of people aren't thinking about, is this, what is possible with AI.
That's the next wave, right? The agentic frameworks are going to be, and it's coming fast. It'll be in the next 6 months that we start to see the proliferation of that technology really starting to come to us in various types of forms. But we won't get into it, because that will take another hour of talking, and I'm not sure that the interwebs has the ability to handle that much Nissa and Trevor talking.
Can we chop this into 15-second bite-sized chunks and repurpose it like everybody thinks we should?
Exactly. So look, I might wrap up here, but I'm really, really excited to be working with you and the team. Amazing people based here in New Zealand and global. Actually, you've got a lot of your team are global based now.
Yeah, the majority of our team is now international. So, we have customers in the UAE, in the US, here in New Zealand, in Australia. So we're very much Avatars Global. We're very much a global organisation. So, yeah.
I'm all about the possibilities, and you're all about the avatars going global. There we go. Aren't we ironic? Did we name our companies that way on purpose? No, it's really exciting. And I think some of the customer projects we're working on right now, we've got a handful of projects on the go at the moment. We're really starting to show what is possible in the space. And we're helping businesses really uncover new opportunities that they didn't think would ever exist.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
believe we're going to be creating not one, but probably two of the next unicorns in this world based out of the depths of these technologies. So
I mean,
it's
it's a
exciting.
blue ocean opportunity right now, and companies that get serious about it and adopt quickly, you know, anything that you can think of is going to be disrupted by AI. And so the people who are thinking about that right now and or are talking to people like Possible who are experts in the space and understanding what the opportunity is for them are going to be a step ahead. And, you know, a lot of the organizations that we're working with are small. They're not massive, you know, household name, big internationals with massive budgets. And these companies will become the next unicorns because they can move faster and they can adapt quicker. And this stuff isn't crazy expensive, right? It's not, you know, necessarily accessible to all yet. It's definitely heading in that direction. But, you know, smaller companies, medium-sized companies, and enterprises that take this stuff seriously can absolutely win. And if they move quickly, there's a blue ocean of opportunity out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking differently and actually embracing it, right? And we're just super excited to support the different projects that we're working on, which are very, very meaningful projects. So
can't wait to share them with everybody.
But thank you so much for joining me today, Trevor. This is sort of a me and you chat and announcing our partnership together. So this will no doubt hit the social media networks very, very soon. But I work with you every day, so thanks again for being on the pod and having this little chit chat.
It feels a little bit like a regular old meeting. This one, not so much a podcast, but hopefully
no beer or tequila this time, so it's not a regular old meeting. No, I've always said I'll be authentic.
100%. That's the key. All right. So, look, thank you so much for giving us the time to get this one underway. I'm sure it won't be the last time that you and I appear on a podcast together. And encourage everybody out there who's swimming in a world of, oh shit, what is this AI and what does it mean to me and how's it going to disrupt me? Just pick up the phone or jump on the website and email one of us, and we can help you understand that journey and what it might look like for you and your company.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Ciao, ciao.